No, Om Ajnanatimirandasya.
Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadanti Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Gurun Shri Vatakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Shya Shri Rupam Sagrajadam Sagana Raghunathanvitam
Sajivam
Satidam Swavadudam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya
Devam
Shri Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitam He Krishna Karuna Sindho Deenabandho Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanushrute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Panchakalpatarupashta Sindhu Bhaevacha Patitanam Pavanibhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namah Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Shashu. We can now continue Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya and then read the text.
Hare Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet Nashtaprayeshva Badreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatyuttama Shlokir Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. Hare Krishna. Yad atra kriyate karma bhagavat paritoshanam jnanam yattad adinam hi bhakti yoga samanvitam. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Shashwin. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna,
Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. Please accept our humble obeisances from everybody who has joined the group, who are about to join, and those also who will see on YouTube later on. I think there are around 300 people who will watch after we finish. So please don't be this thing with the number of participants on the group. Prabhuji, we are reading the Srimad Bhagavatam. We are on Canto 1, Chapter 5, and the text for today is text 35, Prabhuji, we have done the Mangalacharan and we've read the text 35. Should we hand over to you?
Yeah, sure,
would you
Mataji. I'm happy to take over. Yeah, thank you so much. So thank you so much for having me again, everyone, and warm welcome to everyone listening. And thank you so much for the opportunity to speak something on the Srimad Bhagavatam. Mataji, I also have a request of anyone who's listening, is you can stay on mute, but what I'll do is, as the format is within the temples, I was just thinking as I was reciting this verse, that it's nice if people have an opportunity also to recite the verse. They don't necessarily have to unmute because it'll be difficult for everyone to chant at the same time. The sync will be out. But I'll leave a gap after I recite the line of each verse. If people would like to recite after me, that would be really nice, because then everyone gets the opportunity to recite these wonderful verses from the Srimad Bhagavatam. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Canto 1, Chapter 5, Text 35. Yadatra kriyate karma.
Yadatra kriyate karma.
Bhagavat paritoshanam.
Bhagavat paritoshanam.
Jnanam yattad ahinam hi.
Jnanam yattat adina mamhi.
Bhakti yoga samanvitam.
Bhakti yoga samavritam.
Word for word. Yat,
Yat,
whatever.
whatever.
Atra,
Atra.
in this life or world.
In this life or world.
Kriyate,
Kriyate,
does perform.
does perform.
Karma,
Karma,
work.
work.
Bhagavat,
Bhagavat,
unto the personality of Godhead.
unto the personality of Godhead.
Paritoshanam,
Paritoshanam,
satisfaction of.
satisfaction of.
Jnanam,
Jnanam,
knowledge.
knowledge.
Yattat,
Yattat,
what is so called.
what is so called.
Adinam,
Adinam,
dependent.
dependent.
He,
He,
certainly.
certain.
Bhakti yoga,
Bhakti yoga,
devotional.
devotional.
Samanvitam,
Samanvitam,
dovetailed with Bhakti yoga.
dovetailed with Bhakti yoga.
Translation.
Translation.
Whatever work is done here.
Whatever work is done here.
In this life.
In this life.
For the satisfaction.
For the satisfaction.
Of the mission of the Lord.
Of the mission of the Lord.
Is called Bhakti yoga.
Is called Bhakti yoga.
Or transcendental.
Or transcendental.
Loving service to the Lord.
Loving service to the Lord.
And what is called knowledge.
And what is called knowledge.
Becomes a concomitant factor.
Becomes a concomitant factor.
Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The general and popular notion is that by discharging fruitive work in terms of the direction of the scriptures, one becomes perfectly able to acquire transcendental knowledge for spiritual realization. Bhakti yoga is considered by some to be another form of karma, but factually, Bhakti yoga is above both karma and gyan. Bhakti yoga is independent of gyan or karma. On the other hand, gyan and karma are independent on Bhakti yoga. This Kriya yoga or karma yoga, as recommended by Sri Narad to Vyasa, is specifically recommended because the principle is to satisfy the Lord. The Lord does not want his sons, the living beings, to suffer the threefold miseries of life. He desires that all of them come to him and live with him. But going back to Godhead means that one must purify himself from material infections. When work is performed, therefore, to satisfy the Lord, the performer becomes gradually purified from the material affection. This purification means attainment of spiritual knowledge. Therefore, knowledge is dependent on karma or work done on behalf of the Lord. Other knowledge, being devoid of bhakti yoga or satisfaction of the Lord, cannot lead one back to the kingdom of God, which means that it cannot even offer salvation, as already explained in connection with the stanza Naishkarmyam api achuta bhava varjitam. The conclusion is that a devotee engaged in the unalloyed service of the Lord, specifically in hearing and chanting of his transcendental glories, becomes simultaneously spiritually enlightened by the divine grace as confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vishta Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Shanivari Pashyatya Deshatarine. So once again, thank you so much everyone for joining today for this discussion on the Srimad Bhagavatam. We're discussing this wonderful verse where Narad Muni is explaining, just to repeat, whatever work is done here in this life for the satisfaction of the mission of the Lord is called Bhakti Yoga, or transcendental loving service to the Lord. What is called knowledge becomes a concomitant factor. So really beautiful and interesting verse. Many kind of themes here within the purport and within the verse itself, which I'll try and touch upon today. So the first theme in an introduction to this verse is thinking about what is success in life. And if we don't, first we have to determine what success means to really attain that success. And as we've been discussing, that the success of life is ultimately to become self-realized, and there's and connect with the Lord, with Krishna. Now, there's a term which describes how we can be a liberated person, even in a spiritual, even on this material plane. And this is called Jivan Mukta. So someone who's still living, but is liberated because they've reached that platform of full Krishna consciousness. So in one sense, I'll refer to the verse at the end of the Bhagavad Gita, Man Bhava Madbhakto Madhya Jivna Mamaskaru Mame Vasyasi Satyam Te Pratijane Priyosime. So worship me, pay obeisance to me, always think of me, thus you will surely come to me. I promise you this because you are my very dear friend, Krishna says to Arjun. But this is a very difficult, this is something that we're working towards, because I know I can speak for myself, so I definitely don't always think of Krishna. I certainly sometimes think of Krishna, but perhaps I don't always think of Krishna. So how can we really get to this kind of place where we always Man Manabhava Madbhakto, always think of Krishna and become his devotee? So this is where this verse is really explaining and giving the answer to this question, which is whatever work is done here in this life for the satisfaction of the mission of the Lord is called Bhakti Yoga. Now, what's really interesting about this verse, and explained also in the purport, so in the verse, there's this very important word, concomitant. So does anyone here know what the word concomitant means? So The word
At the
concomitant.
same time.
Yeah, that's very nice. Oh, thank you so much, Mataji. So, yeah, it can mean at the same time or accompanying. So thank you very much, Sandy Mataji. So what it's saying here is that, and what is knowledge, called knowledge, becomes a concomitant factor. So by performing bhakti yoga, we actually will receive the knowledge through the process of performing bhakti yoga. So it's not that, we've discussed many times that bhakti yoga isn't necessarily about gathering as much knowledge as we can. It's not a gyan process. So it's about transforming that, what we do. So whatever work is done here in this life for the satisfaction of the mission of the Lord. So there's two people in this world, it's said, who don't suffer, or who appear to not suffer. The first type of person is the ignorant. So the ignorant person doesn't know any better. You know, they'll go about in they haven't gotten a conception of the higher purpose of life. They're perhaps the type of people who seem to enjoy working hard, live for the weekends perhaps, and think, oh, Christmas is coming up, oh, how exciting, and don't really think beyond what's, what the life that they're living. So they're ignorant in that way, and you can't say they're truly happy, but they don't suffer as much because of their ignorance. As the saying goes, ignorance is bliss. And the second type of person who doesn't suffer is actually what's known as a Paramahamsa. So Paramahamsa literally means highest soul. Param is like topmost, and Hamsa is another word for soul. And this is because they're so elevated that they're on this Jivan Mukta platform, which is they're living, but they're liberated. Prabhupada was on this platform. So in the sense, we know that Prabhupada towards the end of his life was in terrible amount of physical pain, but also it's said that in the purport is actually mentioned the threefold miseries of life. So those threefold miseries, does anyone know what they are?
Adi Bhautika, Adi Devika, Adhyatmika.
Yes, thank you very much, Arya Govinda Prabhu. So, and these threefold miseries are essentially, in the translation of what Arya Govinda Prabhu just mentioned, is miseries which are caused by the mind, miseries which are caused by other living entities, and miseries which are caused by natural disasters which we cannot control. And one of Krishna's lieutenants, Durgama, with her trident, which has got 3 prongs, actually is responsible for these. So Krishna wants us to be free of those, and the only way we can do this is by attaining this state of mindset, this and become a Jivan Mukta, so living but liberated, and then eventually being on that platform, thinking of Krishna, we can leave our body and go back home, back to Godhead. So what I wanted to cover, as I've given an introduction to the verse, really I wanted to cover three things in relation to work done for the Lord. So I want us really, and this is again a huge message for myself more than anyone, is thinking about what is my motive for everything that I'm doing. And there's 3 types of work that I'm thinking of in relation to Krishna. So we could have the wrong intention but doing the right action. So that's one level. We could have the right intention but the wrong action. And ultimately we want to get to having the right intention with the right action in the context of Krishna consciousness. So I'm going to explain these 3 thought processes a little bit more. Please do stay with me here. Hopefully it will make sense by the end of our discussion. So the first one I mentioned in terms of doing work for Krishna for the satisfaction of the mission of the Lord, we can talk about wrong intention with the right action. And there is one such personality who's demonstrated, who did the right action, but with the wrong intention. And this was actually Putana. So Putana, as I'm sure you know, was a demon who was sent to actually kill Krishna. That was her intention. Her intention was to kill Krishna. And so Putana assumed the form of a beautiful woman who then she approached Krishna and approached Yashodhama and wished to hold Krishna and have Krishna suckle on her breast. But she'd actually smeared her breast with poison. So upon taking Krishna, Krishna did actually suckle on her breast. But not only did he take some milk, not only did he take the poison, but he also sucked out the life air of Putana. So he took Putana's life. Of course, because he was Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he was completely unaffected by the poison. Putana, feeling that her life was screaming out in agony, was unable to remove Krishna and actually expanded into her demon form, which was said to be 8 miles high. So a huge and ghastly demon form. And upon Krishna taking her life, she collapsed. And the residents of Vrindavan were exposed to a huge body, 8 miles long. Their first concern was Krishna, and they performed various rituals on Krishna to ensure his protection. Though, of course, we know that the Lord needs no protection. And they cut Putana's huge body into pieces. But it's explained actually in the 3rd canto by Uddhava, who's a great devotee of the Lord and a relation of Krishna. In fact, he looks very much like Krishna as well. It's explained in this, he says in the 3rd canto that who would not want to take shelter of Krishna, because even people who go to Krishna with bad intentions like Putana achieve liberation, because Krishna doesn't see the bad intentions. He took Putana still as she was offering him something. Of course, there's a background story in the past lives and so on and so forth. But ultimately, even being killed by Krishna means that one receives benediction. So that was with the wrong intention, still the right action. So we may not have direct contact with Krishna. We may not, be going out to try and kill Krishna or his devotees, but we definitely can do things with the wrong intention. So there's 4 reasons why people come to Krishna, which is explained within the Bhagavad Gita. So they come out of distress. They come out of seeking material benedictions. They come out of curiosity, or they come seeking the absolute truth. And we could say that perhaps coming to Krishna for material benedictions or out of distress, relief for distress, is perhaps the wrong intention in one sense. But it's better to come to Krishna for anything. So if we find that we're on that level, we find ourselves in distress, we find that we want something material, and we're all, let's face it, we're all in need of, definitely not on that level where we don't need anything material. And sometimes in life we need things materially. Then we can ask Krishna for something, and better to go to Krishna than to anyone else, because in this way we become purified and our consciousness become purified. But that is perhaps the wrong intention, but the right action. But we're trying to get to the point where everything that we do for Krishna is for his mission, for his purpose, for his pleasure. As Krishna explains in the 9th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, very famous verse, Yat karosi yad asnasi, yat jahosi dadasi yat tapasyasi konteya, yat kurasva madalpanam. Whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you offer or give away, and whatever austerities you perform, do that, O son of Kunti, as an offering to me. So Krishna is saying here, it doesn't matter what you do, doesn't matter what you ask for, whatever you eat, if you do that with Krishna in mind, then anything that you do can be used as a way to become closer to Krishna. So ultimately, whatever we're feeling and whatever our intentions are, still, if we can try and practice a mindset where we're offering that to Krishna, we'll receive some benefit. Now, the next level is the right intention, but the wrong action. Can anyone think of any examples of any pastimes where perhaps someone had the right intention, but the action was perhaps not the best? Can anyone think of any? So I know it's difficult perhaps off the top of your head. Yeah, I was thinking about this because it's quite a difficult one, but then two pastimes came to mind. So the first was actually a great devotee of Krishna, and he's if you've read Krishna book or the 10th canto, he offers some wonderful prayers to Krishna, and this is Akrura. So Akrura was a great devotee of Krishna, but he was a messenger of Kamsa. And Kamsa, Krishna's uncle, who actually wanted to kill Krishna. So Akrura here, he was a great devotee of Krishna. Krishna's well-wisher, but he approached Krishna for a message to be summoned to the court of Kamsa. And ultimately, Akrura knew that Krishna was being called to be killed by Kamsa, but that was his duty. But he said to himself, Krishna is the Lord, and he knows my intention. He knows that I mean him no ill will by sending this message. So he performed with the right intention for love of Krishna, but the action was to summon Krishna to his perceived death. Another example of having the right intention, but perhaps the wrong action, is Vidura. So Vidura, on one occasion, he summoned Krishna to feed him. And Krishna had actually rebuked Duryodhana. Even though Duryodhana had done the right action, he'd provided like a sumptuous feast, but he had no real love for Krishna. He was actually envious of Krishna. So Krishna rebuked him in favor of Vidur. Now, Vidur is a great devotee of the Lord, but he became flustered when Krishna came to his house, and as such, he ended up offering Krishna banana peels. But because his intention was pure, Krishna gratefully accepted that. So in Krishna consciousness, intention is everything. And this is what will bring us closer. It may sometimes bring us further away from some of our relationships, or even appear. This is why it's so important not to judge externals within Krishna consciousness. To give like a practical example, so for some time, as part of my brahmacharya training, as part of a program at the Bhaktivedanta Mana, people are given the opportunity to have training at Radhanath Maharaj's temple in Mumbai, Iskon Chowpatty. The deities there are Radha Gopinath. So a beautiful temple, an amazing congregation, and many famous brahmacharis have come from that temple. So my service, I'm very grateful to have received an amazing service where I was serving in the room next to the deities. So it was called the transfer service. And essentially what my service would be is to help the pujari get the boga. Obviously I wasn't allowed on the altar because I'm not a Brahmin, but I would help the pujari carry the offerings to the altar. And then I would, without stepping on the altar, would help the pujari kind of take these huge plates of Krishnas and many different offerings. And then once it's been offered, I would take them back into the little room next door, and we would transfer the prasadam so it could be distributed to people, the Mahaprasad. And then we would wash Krishna's utensils. And we had to do this very, very quickly. And there'd be people like banging on the door, and we had to quickly transfer. And to give you an idea that just the amount of sweets they had for Krishna, sweet dishes, was about 12. Often they would have 3 different types of kind of bread, you know, different chapatis, paratha, etc. Various different types of rice, so many different sabjis, so many bowls. So, and there's actually, they've got Gornitai, Gopalji, Srinathji, sorry, and Radha Gopinath. So 3 huge plates, and like it seemed to me about 100 different bowls, many cups as well. They'd often offer milkshakes and things like that, and we had to wash all these in a very, very short space of time. And I'd actually learned that paraphernalia used in the service of the Lord should be treated non-differently to the Lord himself. So upon hearing this, I became very, very kind of agitated. I was like, oh no, you know, it's such a rush to wash all these things, and people are banging on the door asking for we'd lock the door until we transferred everything. And also knowing that, you know, this paraphernalia has been used to serve the Lord, I became very, very anxious. And one of the senior brahmacharis there said, Prabhu, you know, just calm down, Shanti, you know, and don't worry so much, you know, it'll get done in time. And so I thought this was an example where I had the right intention, but I wasn't necessarily performing in the best way, but I think my heart was in the right place. So sometimes we may make mistakes in Krishna consciousness. We may do things wrong. I know I have done many, many things wrong in Krishna consciousness, and I continue to do things wrong. But as long as we can learn from them and ultimately examine our intention, what is our intention? Is our intention to please ourselves, or is our intention to please Krishna and to please the devotees? And in that way, that we'll never really go wrong. You know, we may receive some chastisement, we may receive some correction, but if we can take that in the right way, then it's only going to bring us closer to Krishna. So this was the right intention with perhaps the wrong action, but ultimately I've said the intention is the most important thing in Krishna consciousness. So, but ultimately what we want to get to is the right intention with the right action also. And an example of someone who has the right intentions with the right action is none other than Narad Muni himself. So there's so many pastimes. We're examining one of the pastimes here where he's speaking to Srila Vyasadeva. But one pastime of Narad Muni which really stood out for me was when later in the Bhagavatam he speaks to the sons of Prajapati Daksh. So Prajapati Daksh was trying to create many progeny, and he actually on one occasion had 10,000 sons. But Narad Muni, using the analogy of a whole, convinced them not to get entangled in material life. And he described that material life is like a hole which once you go in, it becomes very difficult to come out of it. And this was such well, first of all, his intention was just to bring them closer to the Lord as quickly as possible. And obviously his actions were right as well. So just to explain this a little bit further, is that this whole of material life that we're stuck in, we always think, even if we're practicing Krishna consciousness, that if we just have a certain material situation, or we may still have material desires, and we try and engage with those material desires and think we'll eventually let go of them. But unfortunately, if dealt with in the wrong way, these can further entangle us and get us trapped in that hole. So, you know, we could say, okay, I have a desire to have a nice car. We get that nice car, but then we have to pay for that car. And to pay for that car, there's so much insurance, there's maintenance, As soon as one buys a new car and takes it off the lot, it depreciates rapidly in value as well. We have to work hard to maintain this car. We may want a big house or, you know, many facilities in our home, but then we have to maintain that home also. We may want nice clothes, nice holidays, but again, in order to maintain all of these material things, that we have to work incredibly hard to do that. And it becomes a vicious circle of endeavoring materially within Krishna consciousness. So I've mentioned before when I've spoken that to really advance in Krishna consciousness does take a lot of mental fortitude, a lot of strength, a lot of our energy. And so if we're expending so much in our material life that we don't have, we won't have energy to practice Krishna consciousness. We won't have energy to at least advance in Krishna consciousness, and Krishna consciousness will become somewhat of a ritual that we just practice, something we do in the mornings. But this verse, what this verse alludes to, and as we've discussed, Yad Karosi Yad Nasiya, that everything that we do can be in the service for the mission of the Lord, if we can develop the right intention and align that with the right actions. There's a couple of examples that come to mind before we open up for discussion. So someone who's very familiar to you, he visited recently, and he's also giving class via Zoom as well. His Grace Suttapa Prabhu, actually, his sannyas ceremony was yesterday. So he's now known as Swayam Bhagavan Keshav Maharaj. So someone I take great inspiration from. And as we were in the ceremony, I looked around, and it was an amazing ceremony. I'd really, many Maharajas were there, Inja Yamna Maharaj, Dayananda Maharaj, Kanamakananda Swami, Jayadvaita Maharaj, many senior devotees as well, Prabhupada disciples. And they had many nice things to say about His Holiness Swayam Bhagavan Keshav Maharaj, but they also had many wonderful insights into Krishna consciousness. So I'd really recommend checking that out on YouTube. But I was looking around at all the devotees, and it was in the Haveli, and I'd never seen this hall so packed as it was that day. There must have been maybe 1,000 devotees there. And everyone, the energy, everyone was so happy. And I turned to my wife and I said that, everyone in this room has so much love for Keshav Maharaj. Everyone has a connection to Maharaj. And I was meditating on that and thinking, why is that? Why has he managed to affect so many people in such a nice way? And you could just tell that even people who I hadn't seen in a long time, who don't often come to the temple, they were there for this ceremony. And I was thinking, what is it about Maharaj? There's something to be learned from this. And this is where I was meditating also on this verse about the right intention with the right action. Is that, in my opinion, Maharaj, when he speaks, or when he interacts with people, he's ultimately reminds me of a verse from the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Atmadriya Pritivancha Tari Balakama Krishna Driya Priticha Dare Prema Nama. The desire to gratify one's own senses is kama, or lust. But the desire to please the senses of Lord Krishna is prema, love. And you can see here he's so eager to distribute Krishna consciousness. He's so eager to help people. And he's got so much intelligence that he's able to do that in the right way. He's got the right intention. He just wants to help people. He's very personal, and he carries it out in the right way, that people can't help but be attracted to him. And this, I feel very much, if I was to say some of the same things that he does and listen to his class, it wouldn't quite have the same effect unless this is really aligned. So I could be saying the right thing, but is my intention aligned? Do I really care about people? Someone once said to me, probably people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So ultimately, we really need to develop this care for people of their well-being and understand how much they're suffering from these threefold miseries. And this is Krishna's mood. He doesn't want, as mentioned in the purport by Srila Prabhupada, he doesn't want any of his children, we're all Krishna's, he's our eternal father. He doesn't want anyone to go through these threefold miseries. So he's desperate for us to take to Krishna consciousness. And finally, just a personal example where I felt it's kind of combined. It was the wrong intention initially, and then it became the right intention. So I was in there, it was, I believe, 2018, and I'd left the ashram, and I was feeling a lot of separation from leaving the temple. I was feeling quite sad, but I knew that I couldn't live as a brahmachari for my life, for the rest of my life. And then also I had to go to a wedding in America during Kartik. And I was feeling quite sad because I really wanted to be in Vrindavan for Kartik. And I often like to go to Vrindavan at least once a year, and I find it very spiritually uplifting. But that year I couldn't go because it was close family, and I had to go to the wedding. So I wanted to spend at least some time in the association of devotees while I was in America. And I visited the Los Angeles temple, quite a famous temple. It actually has like a Bhagavad Gita mini museum in there, and there's many Prabhupada disciples there also. So I was there for the morning program, and I was thinking, I've often sung the Singadev prayers in the temple as a brahmachari. It'd be quite nice to be asked, but on some level, I think that was the wrong intention, because I wanted to do something for Krishna that I was good at, but it's also kind of pleasing to me also. And then obviously I didn't get asked, because when you want something, it won't happen, and it doesn't tend to happen. I found that in Krishna consciousness, especially when your intention like this isn't aligned. So they sang the Singadev prayers, but then it came to Tulsi Arti. Now, I'd never sang Tulsi Arti in the temple before, ever. Wasn't sure about, the words. In fact, on one occasion, Keshav Maharaj actually asked me at the Bhaktivedanta Mana, he tapped me on the shoulder, said, Kamal Prabhu, would you like to lead Tulsi Arti? And I said, no, because I don't have the best singing voice, and I wasn't confident to sing the words. But then on this occasion, at this temple in Los Angeles, a Prabhupada disciple, he saw me at the back. He came to Tulsi Arti, and he said, you. And he's an amazing devotee. His name's Brigupati, probably he's one of the top distributors in America. And he just looked, and I looked behind me, and he said, no, you. And I started feeling very nervous, thinking, I've never sang Tulsi Arti before, what to speak of in so many devotees. And then I kind of approached meekly, and then I honestly, at that moment, I was feeling quite afraid. I wasn't sure of the words. I tried to get out of it. I said, Prabhuji, I'm really sorry. I'm not sure about the words. He said, don't worry, I can get you the words. And I was like, oh, I'm going to have to do this now. And so I looked at Rukmini Dwakadish and said, okay, Prabhuji, I'll try. And I looked at the deities there, Rukmini Dwakadish, and I said, please help me. I don't want to make a fool of myself in front of all these devotees. And then I was even taking some time to gather myself, said, okay, I'm doing this for the pleasure of the Lord, the pleasure of the devotees. And, I'll just do my best and don't worry about it so much. And if I'm out of tune, or, I get some words wrong, that's on Krishna, all I can do is try my best. And then I started singing. And to this day, I've never been able to sing like that before. I've tried in the shower or something singing Tulsi Arti, and I've never hit those notes that I hit that day in Rukmini Dwakadish. And the energy that I felt then, the reciprocation I felt. And it's because I really felt that, one, I depended on Krishna in that moment, which I rarely do. And my mood was, I really just wanted to, I wasn't confident in myself at all. But I really wanted to do something that was pleasing to the devotees, pleasing to Krishna, and I really felt that he helped me in that moment. So yeah, in conclusion, we just talked about what is really success in life. We have to know where to aim for, to first, before we can know where we're going. we talked about this concept of only two people don't really suffer in the world, the ignorant and the Paramahamsa. And I suppose all of us are in between that stage. So how can we get to this Jivan Mukta, this living but liberated stage? And ultimately within this verse, the point is that whatever work that we do, we try and align that and align our intention towards Krishna. And then we talked about the three different types: the wrong intention, the right action, the right intention, the wrong action. And ultimately, if we can, wherever possible, the right intention aligned with the right action. But ultimately, the most important thing is what's going on in here, our intention. And if we can keep doing that, keep adjusting our intention, we'll slowly become closer and closer to Krishna. So those are some thoughts that I had on this wonderful verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam. Thank you so much for your kind attention. Please forgive me for any mistakes, and I'd welcome any comments, corrections, or questions at this time. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you so much. Your last example was really the essence of this shloka. I thought the Tulsi Aarti, the intention and the knowledge came because the intention was pure. So thank you very much for sharing that. Prabhuji, you answered one of my questions about the paraphernalia. So I make offerings every day, and today I didn't have time to wash the utensils, and I just left, and they were left with all the utensils the other people had eaten. And I was feeling guilty, and I said, but then you know how you convince your mind, okay, it's okay, it's okay. But today, it just happened in the afternoon, and here's the answer to my question that no, it wasn't right. You should have probably left them somewhere separate or washed them later on or whatever, but because the paraphernalia is no different from the Lord. So thank you for clarifying that question that I had in my mind. Prabhuji, I had another question. Prabhuji, you said there are three people who are happy. One is the ignorant, one is the Paramahamsa, and who was the third one?
It was just two people, Mataji. Yeah, so it's just the ignorant and the Paramahamsa. An example I've heard is that there's just two people in this world who are not necessarily happy, but who don't suffer. And as we know, that the definition perhaps of suffering, because Prabhupada uses the term so-called happiness and distress, and he in one of his lectures he says two relative terms. So to one person, what is happiness? Another person may be their worst nightmare. And we can see that this material world is very much a duality. So the ignorant person isn't really suffering in the sense that then the mind isn't so agitated because they're so ignorant. They think that this is it. Like, oh, Christmas is coming soon. Oh, this is good. And oh, well, work, I need to just work hard and I'm somewhat enjoying it. And they just live for kind of sense gratification. But again, that ends, at some point, something will happen to them, which will make them question life. But then obviously, then the other type of person, the Paramahamsa, they're on such a liberated platform that they may receive so many material difficulties, as Srila Prabhupada did, as many of the acharyas did, but they don't suffer because they've come to that level, that connection with Krishna, where they never really feel separated from Krishna, no matter what they're going through. So this is my limited understanding of the two types of people who don't suffer in this world.
Thank you very much. Are there any other questions or comments? Yes.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you. Thank you, Prabhuji, for the wonderful class and then wonderful realization on this verse. And nice to know the name of Sutapa Prabhu is sannyasi name, Swayam Bhagavan Keshav Maharaj. Thank you. Haribol to him. Actually, you are mentioning about the right actions and wrong intentions, wrong intention, right actions, the combination of these two. let's say most of I'm talking about me. Like, let's say I want to please Krishna, but inside of me, the ego, our ego says that, okay, you want to get appreciation. So that's like an inner feeling that like when you're singing, or you become conscious that, okay, I want to please myself than to please the deities and please the devotees. So like how to get rid of it? On a practical note. Prabhuji.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Govinda Prabhu. Amazing question, and something that I've myself has really struggled with, if I'm honest, is that this need for appreciation, this need for acknowledgement, and thinking of when we're doing things, thinking that first of oneself. And I've spoke to many devotees about this, whether it's kirtaniers who will start singing and thinking, oh, look, everyone is loving me, and they're lapping up this praise, or that it's a speaker, or even it can happen, people doing menial service, and thoughts can come in. People will say to the person doing menial service, oh, Prabhuji, oh, Mataji, how humble you are. Say, oh yes, I'm very humble. Look at me, look at my humility, and become proud of their humility.
Yeah, yes.
So I've listened to many classes on humility. I can recommend them to you, Prabhuji. I don't have any real realization on this, because I can't say I have any real humility. I'm not. That's not even me being humble. That's me being. There's once a speaker who said that if one thinks that one is not, sorry, I'm just going to get the wording right. If one is actually advanced but thinks one is not advanced, that's humility. But if one thinks one is not advanced and isn't advanced, that's reality. And so mine is definitely the latter. But what I know on a theoretical basis, that the way to develop humility is through service of just continuing to serve of the Lord, and then internally giving that credit to him. So someone gave a nice analogy that once we receive praise, we should take that praise as a flower, offer it to our Guru Maharaj. He will create a garland that will offer to Radha Krishna. So that's really, it's like I believe that working is continuing to serve and continue to associate with devotees, and remembering that we often say, if someone is very good at something, we say, oh, they're so gifted. I could even say Shashram Prabhu, he's very gifted. He's very gifted at reciting verses, and at such a young age, amazing. But then we have to remember where that gift came from, is that Krishna is the ability in man. So who really gave the gift? It's like, really, an analogy was given in a class that someone buys us a very nice home or a very nice car. They gift it to us. And then we start showing off this car, but we didn't get this car ourselves. We were given it by someone. So we should give credit to that person. So in the same way, it's just constantly reminding ourselves that anything good that we do is through the mercy of Krishna. And ultimately, Prabhuji, as you're doing, and you probably got more knowledge than I do and more experience, is that when we associate with devotees, we tend to get humbled anyway. So it's either be humble, or you will be humbled at some stage. And I found this many so apologies, I don't really have so much real realization on humility, because I don't really have so much. But these are just some practical things which I continue to try and implement. Sorry, I couldn't be more. Does that make sense, Prabhuji?
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Vishakha Mataji, kindly unmute and ask your question.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Very nice class. I
Hare
just
Krishna.
it's not a question, but a little realization. Like yesterday, when I was watching Swayambhu, I still can't say the name, but
Swayam Bhagwan Keshav Maharaj.
Swayam Bhagwan Keshav Maharaj is sannyasi initiation. And I was also like thrilled to see so many people, and I was thinking, look how, like so many people are like loving him, and he is like he's like Bhagwan Numan, as we say it, yeah. And I felt that I always hear that we must love God, must love Krishna. But yesterday this realization came that yes, we must love Krishna, but sometimes we get carried away with like we must pray, but we must also love the people around. And when we love the people around, then Krishna automatically comes, sits in our heart. So that's a realization. I it's just even when I slept yesterday, I was just thinking about him. Like how fortunate we are to just have his. He's always so kind, so personal. No matter how busy he is, he will just be there for anybody, and that's what we have to learn from him. And the other thing I just wanted to say about you're right. When I started my Krishna conscious a bit seriously, I thought, oh, I'm doing so much. That's what I felt. That was my personal. Oh, look, I'm waking up early. Oh, I'm doing this. I'm doing rounds. And then later on, I started to realize. Then, as I progressed, I realized, hold on. Look how many errors I'm making. I'm not perfect at all, because I still even at present, some of the etiquettes I fail on them, and I've been feeling. Look, I've been a letdown. So one thing is that Krishna makes us realize how unworthy I am. That's how. I just wanted to say that. Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much for your wonderful comments, Vishaka Mataji. Really, really heartfelt. And yeah, it reminds me of Srila Prabhupada, who said, someone asked Prabhupada, why does everyone love you? And he said, because I love everyone. And so he sees everyone with so much love. And actually, Vishaka Mataji reminded me of perhaps another insight, a reflection I had very recently. So a few days ago, before the sannyas initiation, I attended a kirtan at the manor, but the kirtan was on a stage in the Haveli building, and it just wasn't the same. It didn't feel as intimate as it would be in the temple room, and I was wishing that there would have been a kirtan in the temple room. The energy was very different, and it just felt more, even though there's some amazing devotees, including Chandramauli Maharaj, His Holiness Chandramauli Maharaj on stage, but it felt more like a performance than a kind of inclusive kirtan. And I was thinking, oh, I wish there would have been some kirtan in the temple. And then as that happened, I thought, okay, I said to my wife, look, it's getting late now. Let's just take darshan. It was about 9 o'clock at night. So let's take darshan of Radha Gokulananda and leave. And then so I went to take darshan of Radha Gokulananda, and I was just, praying to Radha Gokulananda. The curtains opened, and then our very own Avinash Prabhuji was there, and he said to me, "Oh, I have a confession to make here as well." So Avinash Prabhuji, he said to me, "Oh, Kamal Prabhu, could you please sing the Aarti?" And obviously, I don't attend very often at 9 o'clock, so I didn't even know that there was a kind of kirtan or Aarti there. And again, like I said, I'm not the best singer, and I was reluctant to do it. But then I was looking around, and there was no one else, so I started singing. And I think this is also a little bit of how humility can develop. Is we push ourselves to do things necessarily that we may not want to, but we do it because we want a relationship with Krishna. Just like there's a saying that a true friend is someone who will be there for you even when they'd rather be there somewhere else. In the same way that sometimes we do things we may not necessarily want to, but we do it for Krishna. And then I started singing, and I thought, okay. And then suddenly lots of people came in. There were about 50 people in the temple room. And it was just a really nice feeling to chant in the temple room. And then Vishaka Mataji and Avinash Prabhuji's daughter came and did the Nasingadev prayers, and she is a real amazing kirtanier. And I got what I desired as well, which is like an amazing kirtan in the temple room, and that experience. So yeah, you know, pushing oneself to do things which one may not necessarily want to do, and a little bit out of a comfort zone in the service of Krishna, will develop some humility, and we'll get that reciprocation from Krishna for sure. Panchali Mataji, did you have a comment or a question?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Yeah, just a very quick realization. First of all, apologies for joining late. But just a quick realization on the direct relation between humility and the intentions in our heart. So going back to, so I was watching Swam Bhagwan Keshav Maharaj's Sannyas ceremony yesterday, and I was just remembering to one of his sessions that I watched on YouTube the other day, and he was talking to a group of devotees, and he was saying that at one time I was approached by a mystic, and he told me that be careful of pride. That's one of the things you need to remember. And at that time, I didn't really understand. But as I reflected on what he said, you know, it's just people who are very, very tall. They tend to look down on others, and automatically they tend to look down on others. And as a result, unconsciously, they develop a pride in them. And as he was making his speech yesterday in his sannyas ceremony, he touched upon humility quite a few times in his after his sannyas, and I was reflecting on the fact that, you know, he has I suppose he just remembers that whatever he does, even the intention of what he needs to do now, he was joking about he needs to go out, he needs to preach most of the time in the UK, but maybe at some other places as well. So his intention is very good, but he is talking about humility, and he directly at all times, the reason he's able to reach so many people's hearts is because his intention is always it correlates to humility. It never is covered by pride, and that is perhaps one of the things I kind of realized yesterday, that, you know, very similar to what you were saying today, the intention must be built on humility. If it's built on pride, it goes nowhere. And the other very, very quick thing was, you know, again, last month on Narasimha Chaturdashi, so I was at the Soho temple, and he was Satava Prabhu at the time, and he and Kadamba and Swami Maharaj, they came over and they did a play over there. They read out they did a reading at the temple room, and Vishaka Mataji's daughter, Shyama Ballava, she's my friend. So she did a kirtan, and then I was playing the kartal at the time. And then there was the switch over. So Shyama Ballava left, and then Kadamba Kandan Swami came and sat next to me. And I was so busy looking at, because the Abhishek had just finished, and I was so busy trying to look at the temple, the deities, etc. I didn't realize I was just covering Maharaj for a while, and I probably wasn't sitting in the right way. And later on, I realized, and I felt so bad, and I went up to Steppa Prabhu saying, look, I really feel really bad. I just wanted to apologize that I kind of didn't sit properly next to Maharaj. And he said, you know, don't worry. And I was doing guest greeting as well, and I kept thinking about, you know, oh Lord Nasandev, please forgive me. I mean, how can I? He's a senior devotee. He's your person, and I actually have offended him. It was such a busy day, and, you know, loads and loads of people around there. And Kadambakanan's family left the room, and he had to go the other way. He came directly towards me, and I was able to ask forgiveness from him, and he actually came and sat down next to me, and I was able to just say, just forgive me, and he had no idea what I was asking for, and he said, you know, that's fine, don't worry, and he spoke to me, and I just kind of felt forgiven, and he said, you're forgiven. He probably had no idea why he was forgiving me, but I just asked so much, and at that time I felt in my heart that if you pray to the Lord with humility, asking for forgiveness, he actually listens to you, and he makes the impossible possible, because, you know, so it kind of makes things, yeah. And it's just some of the things which you kind of find sometimes Krishna works and, you know, makes things happen which you otherwise wouldn't think would happen. But yeah, it all revolves around humility and the intention in your heart, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I just want to thank Arya Govinda Prabhu, Gautika Mataji, Vishaka Mataji. I really, really appreciate, because I'm learning along this journey as much as anyone here, if not more so. And I really, really appreciate when you have your comments, share your realizations and questions. So thank you so much for that wonderful realization. I have a little bit of time if we can continue. Vishaka Mataji, do you have a closing comment?
Sorry, Prabhu, I think it's just showing my hand. I'm trying to lower it. Sorry, Prabhu.
Okay. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So I think we passed 3 minutes of an hour. And if this hand is real hand, Vishaka Mataji? No, I guess. I'll ask Arya Govind Prabhuji to
It's a
kindly
mistake,
end the
sorry.
session. It's okay. Kindly close the session.
Thank you, Prabhu, for this wonderful class and realizations, and it really helps us, as devotees, to overcome our own challenges, as like what rightly you put it across, and with right intention and right, right direction. If I'm right intention and right action, right action. So we need to work towards that goal, and then we are all, we're all learning, and then we're just going on a journey. Thank you so much, Prabhu, for this for this wonderful session. I request all the devotees assembled to unmute and chant Hare Krishna once in glorification of Kamal Panchal Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vanchakalpatarubhascha kripa sindhubhyo patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Grace Kamal Panchal Prabhu ki. Nitai Gaur Sripanath Premanande. Hari
Hari Bo.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you.